So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, over the last couple of days, we've talked a lot about the young players on this roster. We've talked about how Josh Paschal could potentially be the edge rusher too, and the kind of complement to Aiden Hutchinson in the pass rush. We've talked about Broderick Martin's NFL debut and the 11 snaps that he played and the impact that he had on Monday Night Football. But one player we haven't really talked about a whole lot since him being drafted is right guard Colby Sorsdal, the former 5th-round pick from William & Mary, a player coming from a very small school, changing positions in the NFL to fit and stick on the Detroit Lions roster, made his first NFL start on Monday Night Football versus the Las Vegas Raiders, and I thought he played very, very well. He's a player that was, again, coming from a very small school. At William & Mary, he played right tackle. He positioned to right guard. When he joined the NFL, the Lions thought that was a better fit for him and his skill set. And so far, I think that move is paying off for Colby Sorsdal. Not only did he make his first start, he played 86 snaps for the offensive line. Every single one that the offense took, Colby Sorsdal was out there as the starting right guard. And I thought he played very well. From the tape that I watched, I don't know the official number of pressures he gave up. I don't know how PFF charted it. I'm not sure how some other websites charted it. But from what I saw, Colby Sorsdal really only allowed 2 pressures on the night, allowed 0 sacks, and was phenomenal in the rushing attack. Playing 86 snaps in your first start on primetime Monday Night Football can be really intimidating for some guys. And I think Colby Sorsdal stepped up to the plate, played really, really well. And I think even made the case for himself being the starting right guard for the 2024 season, as Big V and Graham Glasgow both have contracts coming to an end. I think Colby Sorsdal made a case for himself being the starting right tackle going forward once those guys are no longer on the roster, or if they are unable to be re-signed. So I want to go over Colby Sorsdal's first start. I want to go over most of the snaps that he played, the good, the bad, who he played against, what I thought he did really well, a couple of the moments where I thought he really struggled, and talk about whether or not he has a case about going forward and having a larger role potentially on the Lions for the future, and whether or not Brad Holmes found himself another steal in the late rounds of the NFL draft. So starting off, Colby Sorsdal made his first ever start in the NFL. However, it wasn't his NFL debut. All the way back in week 2, the Detroit Lions had a lot of injuries along their offensive line. They lost 3 right tackles in a row versus the Seattle Seahawks in their second game of the season, and that required Colby Sorsdal to go back outside to right tackle, where admittedly he wasn't very good, right? He had a couple good moments, certainly had a couple moments where he was in position, got his hands on guys and was able to hold them up, but for the most part, it was pretty evident that Colby Sorsdal wasn't quick enough, wasn't fast enough off the snap to really protect well at the right guard or at the right tackle position, and that right guard was probably going to be a better spot for him. Now, in the preseason, Colby Sorsdal looked really good at right guard. Obviously, going back out to right tackle is not easy after spending a month and a half practicing at a completely different position, but Colby Sorsdal stepped up and tried his best. I thought he had a couple good moments, but also had a couple really bad moments. Going into Monday Night Football, Halapaloe Vaitai was injured. Frank Ragnow was injured, as was Jonah Jackson. None of the starting 3 offensive linemen on the interior of the Lions offensive line started on Monday Night Football, which a lot of people were nervous about, but I think a lot of people also realized that the Vegas interior wasn't very good, and I think that it was a great opportunity for Colby to get some live game reps on a primetime game and really see what the young right guard was capable of, and he played really well. 86 total snaps, that being 100% of the total offensive snaps that the offense ran. He allowed 2 pressures on the night, both of whom came from Max Crosby on a stunt or kind of an end around or a delay, something like that. He never gave up a pressure to an interior defensive lineman that I charted. They were both from Max Crosby, the guy that so happens to lead the NFL in pressures so far this season, and he allowed 0 sacks. Now, one of his pressures did turn into Jared Goff rolling out of the pocket and throwing a pick 6 to Marcus Peters. That play was very much on on Colby Sorsdal. He did allow that pressure. Jared Goff did make that poor decision, but the other pressure allowed Jared Goff to roll out and find Amon-Ra St. Brown in a very similar part of the field and pick up a first down and continue a very important drive. So Colby did make a couple mistakes for sure, but for the most part, he was really, really good. And we've talked a lot about his pass protection, but Colby Sorsdal was a huge part of the Jahmyr Gibbs rushing touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs ran right behind Colby Sorsdal for that touchdown run, was able to slip between the center and Colby Sorsdal at right guard, was able to make a move, bounce outside, and take it for a 27-yard score. That play doesn't happen without Colby Sorsdal's run blocking and his ability to wall off the interior defensive lineman. He was a part of several big runs. Colby Sorsdal was a lead blocker for Jahmyr Gibbs all night, including the passing touchdown that Jared Goff threw, right? We talked about his pass protection. He did give up 2 pressures, but he also had a lot of really good pass pro reps, and he was able to protect Jared Goff really well for a majority of the night, including the passing touchdown to Sam Laporta. Now, taking a look at kind of the things he did well and not so well. I didn't think Colby Sorsdal showed a whole lot of power in his debut. I didn't think he showed a whole lot of power in his first start against a defensive line that really wasn't that impressive, right? I don't think that the Raiders have the most impressive interior defensive lineman, and I don't think Colby Sorsdal really showed the ability to move people off the ball, right? He certainly showed the ability to wall people off, certainly showed the ability to contain players as an offensive lineman, position himself to open up lanes in the running game, but he wasn't really pushing guys 3-4 yards down the field, right? We have seen Penei Sewell run people over, right? We've seen him run through people. We've seen Big V get downfield and lay people out and put people on the ground and just genuinely be a bulldozer of an offensive lineman. That really wasn't Colby Sorsdal's game. He wasn't leveling people. He wasn't necessarily flattening guys or pancaking guys, but he was using technique. His technique was really, really strong. He got to the second level a lot of times and was able to be that lead blocker. And even though he wasn't a devastating power blocker, he used his technique to get in the way, didn't commit any penalties, didn't get any flags thrown on him, and he was able to open up several lanes because of his technique. Now, one thing I thought was really impressive was his IQ during the game, right? A lot of rookies, especially late round rookies that went to smaller schools, don't necessarily live up and don't necessarily see the game as well as some other players. A lot of times going from a D2 school or a small D1 school to the NFL leads the NFL players to seem a lot faster, right? It's a lot for a rookie to kind of process, and a lot for their IQ and their mental ability is very much strained throughout their first couple of games of the NFL season. However, I thought Colby Sorsdal was really, really good. His motor was very high. He was not passive in pass protection. He was not passive in run blocking. He was always looking for somebody to get his hands on. He was always looking for somebody to block. Even if there wasn't a guy directly in front of him, he would then turn to help Penei Sewell with Max Crosby. He would turn to help Graham Glasgow with the defensive tackle. And sometimes he got stuck one-on-one, but he played really, really well. If there wasn't a player coming at him, he was finding somebody to block to give Jared Goff time. And there was a couple different reps where Penei Sewell got beat once or twice, and Colby Sorsdal was there to clean it up. There was a rep where Graham Glasgow got beat to the inside, and Colby Sorsdal was there to double team and clean it up. So Jared Goff had the opportunity to get the pass off. His technique was really good. He was not passive in pass protection, and his motor was really high, continuing to look for guys, continuing to look to be impactful, continuing to get down the field on running plays and find somebody to block. And that's the mentality I think that they really valued when scouting Colby Sorsdal, is that he's always going to look to benefit the team, right? His job is not over just because the pass is away. His job is not over just because there's not somebody rushing right directly in his face. His job isn't over just because the run didn't go to his side. He's always looking for somebody to block. He's always looking to get downfield and be impactful. And there's a lot of times where his downfield blocking led to bigger plays than otherwise would have been. Now, talking about Colby Sorsdal's IQ, talking about kind of his ability to see the field, I thought he did really well picking up stunts and blitzes that the Raiders were throwing at him. Obviously, with their interior not being very well, the Raiders tried to find a different way to get pressure. They blitzed a couple of times. They were able to kind of run stunts and blitzes, and they were able to kind of get Colby Sorsdal off track a little bit. There were times where Max Crosby would loop outside of Penei Sewell, and he would have to pass off his guy to Penei and take on Max Crosby one-on-one, and he did that very, very well. There there was only one play where they really ran a stunt. And unfortunately, that did turn into the pick six where Max Crosby came around on the stunt and was able to kind of force Jared Goff off his spot. But later in the game, the same thing happened and Colby was able to pick it up, still gave up some ground, still allowed Jared Goff to get outside the pocket, but that then turned into a first down. And even though it was a pressure, it really wasn't that dangerous of a pressure as Jared Goff had all the time he needed to take an extra step back. He was able to take a sidestep and find Amon-Ra St. Brown for an easy first down, wide open beyond the sticks. So Colby Sorsdal showed the ability to find protection. He showed the ability to pass protect. He showed the ability to run block really, really well. And he showed the ability to pick up stunts and blitzes and pass guys off, even with the jumbled mess that was the Detroit Lions offensive line on Monday night. And you might say, okay, yeah, but he went against really poor competition. Okay, yeah, but he didn't play against anybody that good. And when he did, he really didn't play that well, right? We said that Max Crosby had 2 pressures on him alone, but that was on 86 snaps, right? That was a huge amount of snaps for a rookie to play. And going against the NFL's leader in pressures in Max Crosby, going against the former, I believe, 9th overall pick or a top 10 pick for sure in Tyree Wilson, those are 2 guys that were supposed to be really good passers. They're supposed to win against guys that are drafted out of William and Mary in the 5th round. And for the most part, I thought Colby Sorsdal won most of those battles. Tyree Wilson didn't have a pressure on the night, and the offensive line held Max Crosby to the lowest pressure amount in the season, being, I believe, just 4 pressures on Jared Goff. Two of them did come from Colby Sorsdal, but for the most part, he held Max Crosby out all night. And when it wasn't Max Crosby, he was lights out the entire time. So with that being said, with Big V having an expiring contract, with Graham Glasgow being on the last year of his deal, and both of them going to be significantly more expensive than Colby Sorsdal, I think Colby Sorsdal does have an opportunity to take on that 2024 starting right guard position. He's going to be cheaper. He's locked up for at least 3 seasons, and he's going to be a very good young player that's going to continue to grow and develop. So while it's not obviously a guarantee, I think that Brad Holmes has found another serviceable player in the 5th round, a player that at worst case is going to be able to step in and play really strong and keep your offensive line at a really high level. And at best case is going to turn into a 3-year starter for the Detroit Lions on a 5th round rookie contract. So has Brad Holmes done it again? I think it's a little too early to tell, but signs early show that he is a very good football player, that Brad Holmes found a gem at William and Mary in the 5th round of the NFL draft. And all signs are pointing to the fact that Brad Holmes may have just found another gem from this 2023 NFL draft class. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about Sorsdal's debut. How do you think he's going to slide in and fit in with the rest of this offensive line for the remainder of the season? I'd be very curious to you guys have to say. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.